As far as high school baseball goes, I played 2 years and then decided for some reason that I liked basketball better and decided I'd play basketball. So I never really lettered in high school baseball, but the 2 years that I played, I was an outfielder, occasional second baseman. I was able, after the 2 years that I didn't play any longer, Coach Conrad kept me on as a manager, statistician, and that's kind of where I fell in love with the statistics of the game, which I still enjoy today. The best memory I have was after I was no longer playing and I was, the tag-along guy with the team, with the statistician. But my junior year was our first ever trip to the Final Four. We got third in the state, lost a one-run game in the semifinal, and it was Coach Conrad, first time in school history, but Coach Conrad's first of 3 Final Fours that he had, and was really a fun time. I was still with my friends. I wasn't necessarily on the team, but I was a part of it. Did not play sports in college, but I attended Drury College right out of high school from 89 to 93. The 4 years I was there, I was actually the equipment manager on the basketball team, so I got to travel around the country, got to meet a lot of people who are still close with today, people not just from around the country but from around the world. We have some foreign players play with us, and I stay in touch with some of those and made some good friendships that still last today, many years later. Right out of college, I had the opportunity to student teach at Crane, and then immediately after that, they had an opening, and I was able to teach 4th grade. I did that for 20 years, worked with 9, 10, 11-year-olds, and it was a different experience, but I got the experience of working with young kids, and then while coaching, got the experience of working with high school kids as well, so I got the full gamut of that. I did 20 years in the classroom in 4th grade, and then the last 9 years, I have been an administrator and enjoyed the move into that, and it was a welcome change at the time. As I was hired for a teacher, I was also hired as assistant basketball and assistant baseball coach, and worked with both of those, and did both of those, and then also was head junior high basketball coach for a couple years. And then I kind of reversed my decision from high school and wanted to focus on baseball because it was the sport I enjoyed coaching more. And from that point on, I gave up the basketball after 4 years as an assistant and was assistant for the first 13 years of my career. I was assistant baseball and then got the head coaching job after that, and for 16 years I've been the head coach. 397 and 305 is my coaching record, and feel a little bit cheated out of the COVID year. We were primed to have a really good team that year. We were number 3 in the state preseason. Of course, everybody feels like they got cheated out of a season regardless of how talented or how good they were, but really felt like that was going to be a year that maybe could have got us some more wins, not for me but for our program and for the team, maybe even got us back into a postseason run. But 397 and 305. 2011 we had what I feel like is one of the best 1-2 pitching combinations in the state. We got knocked off in the district and didn't get to make a run that year that we felt like we would be able to do. But then 2014 has to be, I just have to look back at that as my best team. We won a district championship. We faced a very good pitcher that had not lost a game all spring in the sectional and knocked them off. Got to the quarterfinal and faced Hartville, who was defending state champs, and had a back and forth game with them, and they kind of pulled away late and held us off and kept us from getting to the Final Four. So 14 was really successful, and then the past 4 years we've been successful and always been in a loaded district, and didn't get out of the district, but won a lot of games in the last 4 years. I've coached a lot of talented kids. As an assistant, I had a young man by the name of Terry Woodward. He holds lots of school records here, the home run record, and he kind of, short story, funny story, when he was a freshman, Coach Conrad came to me. He was a catcher, and we already had a couple catchers, good catchers. He said, "You got to take him to the outfield with you. We got to make him an outfielder. He's too good a hitter." And so we take him to the outfield. We were throwing the bases, and the first day I hit a ball over his head to see what he can do, and he picks it up at the fence and throws a shot straight to the catcher at home. And Coach Conrad and I kind of looked at each other and nodded and said, "Yeah, he can handle it." But Terry, a couple years after he graduated, was tragically killed in a car wreck, and to this day he's just one of the kids I remember the most. And then another one that I want to point out is, we're not supposed to have favorites, but he's probably the favorite kid I've ever coached. Young man by the name of Luke Minton. He was not talented. He knew he wasn't talented. He was on our 2014 team. He was a senior, did not play much on that team, but he was kind of the glue for that team. He was the dugout presence. He was the just the guy that held everything together. And after the last game, I tried to tell him, I wish I could have played you more, and he wouldn't even let me tell him that because he said, Coach, I want to win as bad as you did, and playing me was not going to make that happen. And Luke went on to be in the United States Navy for several years, and just very proud of the person that he became, and that's what it's about, the people that they are. Very best would be the sectional of 2014 after beating Marionville in a one-run game in the district championship. We faced Spokane. They had like I said earlier, they had a young man that was a very good pitcher and had not lost a game all spring, and we were able to put together hits when we needed them, and my pitcher did a great job that day and held them in check, and we were able to get them in advance to our first quarterfinal as the head coach. What's kept me coaching baseball over the years, when I was young and my dad would take me to games, and we wouldn't just watch the game, we'd talk about baseball. He'd quiz me about rules and situations, and kind of got my mind wrapped around being a coach, and I feel like that's what got me hooked on the game. And once I did that, it's the raising the young men to be successful at what they do, but also successful outside of baseball. I'm always proud when I hear of my guys that go play in college and all that, but I'm even more proud of the adults they become, and when they call me and say, hey Coach, guess I got this new job, or getting married, having another baby or whatever. And if they grow up and become good husbands and fathers, to me that's more important than what they learn from me for baseball. Yeah, I always feel it's important to not just know your kids and make relationships. That kids from other schools, I feel like it's important. Of course, being a third base coach, it's third baseman that I get to talk to the most, and there's some are more talkative than others, and sometimes it's even an ongoing conversation from year to year. We kind of pick up where we left off, and we don't always talk baseball. We talk about what other sports they play, what they do in school, where they're headed after school, and we play licking once a year in the fall, and every fall they've had a kid that started as he was a freshman, and this year he was a junior, and every year it's just like, that's the 3 times in my life I've ever met the kid, but we've just had an ongoing conversation. And when Crane plays him next year, I'll probably try to seek him out and see how things are going for his senior year. And I've tried to do this with kids from a lot of schools. Growing up, being a big Cardinals fan in the 80s, it was Whitey Herzog, and trying to be aggressive and push the envelope and get guys that can work hard and play the game fast as far as big time coaches. But 2 men that I would say are the biggest mentors I've had are Coach Conrad and my dad. My dad introduced me to the game. He and Coach Conrad coached me in Little League, and then Coach Conrad continued on up through. And the influence they've both had on me. For Coach Conrad to come back to my final game last week and get to speak it meant a lot to me. If you saw him leaning on an old silver fungo bat, it was his fungo bat from when he and I first started coaching together, and I've had it all these years. He didn't even know it was still around, and I used it for pregame that day and got to give it to him after the game, and made a just wrap the career up, And then with my dad, he never got to see. He died when I was 30 years old, and he never got to see me as a head coach. But all the influences he had over me, all of the years that have turned me into the man I am today, and has helped me lead other young men. My main philosophy for baseball, as a high school coach, you kind of have to adapt to the kids that you have in a particular year. But I like to push the envelope and play hard, and the extreme hustle and the work ethic. Our practices are very hard. We try to make it so that practice is hard enough that the games don't seem hard to the kids. And we push them, we're hard on them, we're brutally honest with them, and they don't like that at first, but they come to where that's what they expect, and that's what they want after so long. And the main thing that I try to focus on is just turning these, like I've said before, turning these kids into good young men that are going to go out in society and be a positive on society. I feel like being an example. A lot of kids these days don't have a male role model in their life, and I take that in my job at school with elementary kids all the way up through high school. Just try to be a good role model to them, be someone that they can call, or they can just knock on the door and stop by and come by and visit, whether that be at school or at home or whatever. They know they're always welcome. I just love to see when we're in the middle of a practice and I look at someone pull in the parking lot and it's 1, 2, 3, how many former players they want to come and just watch what's going on, and I always make time to visit with them. And it's just having that impact has been the most important thing. Yeah. When I decided to retire, the first thing in my mind is who's going to replace me. Since the fall of 1987 till now, we've had 2 baseball coaches here at Crane, Coach Conrad and then myself. And it's important to find someone that we know will stay and will have that tradition. And my assistant for the last 6 years has been Mr. Clay Stump. He has done a great job. He stepped in, he stepped in at a young age. He was only 1 full year out of high school when he became my assistant. And he stepped up and he's taken a lot of leadership. The kids have bought in and they enjoy him, And I've known Clay since, actually his dad and I went to a Cardinals playoff game in the 90s when his dad was packing him around on his hip the whole way. He was that young. And then Clay became a 4th grade student of mine, and that's where I realized he kind of had the same love for the game that I do. And a great family guy, and he's going to carry on the tradition, and the kids buy into him, and kids love him already. Oh, it's been great being a part of the Missouri State High School Coach Association. I joined several years ago, right at the time that Coach Conrad went into their Hall of Fame. And from then, I've been asked to jump into some leadership roles. I've been a vice president, and then the past 2 years I've been president-elect. And starting on July 1st, I'll take the role of president for a 2-year term. And the basic role there is to work with our executive director who runs the show. But I'll run the banquet. We have a big, nice banquet for all coaches that accomplish postseason success. We present them awards, and I'll organize and help run that banquet. I will be when the state rankings come out, I'm the guy that sends out the reminders of who's doing what. And same thing, when we do all-state nominations, academic all-state, and all those things. It's being the right-hand man of the executive director, which maybe in the future that's something I would pursue even there. The main thing, as far as family, I made the comment at our banquet the other night that my wife Holly and we started dating in 1988. 7 years later, we got married. When we started dating, I was in the dugout as a high schooler, and when we come back during college, I always would just step in the dugout. I've been in the dugout as a coach, and so the first time ever next year, we'll get to sit and watch a Crane High School baseball game together. It's never been done. We spend all fall and all spring talking to each other through fences, it seems like. When I leave for practice the first day in August, she always says, "See you in October," because that's what it seems like. But I want to thank her for the support, being the #1 Pirate fan. And then also just the parents, we can't do it without them. If they don't trust us with their kids, it's not going to be a good experience. And then the school administration, they hire us and stay out of the way and support us when we need it, but they don't try to tell us what to do. And they've just been so supportive. And then all the fans that came back for my last game, it was overwhelming. I hope to have a few people there, and I didn't know anything about the ceremonies coming up. I hope to have a few stop by and say hello, but I was just overwhelmed by the number of them.